There we go. So then that way, that way I have it in case if I need to refer back to it.
No, that's a great thing to do because I might be kind of all over the map playing around with it. But so our student-led projects or our internship is that's one of our programs at Empowerment Systems. That's the Empowerment Learning Collaborative. And what that is comprised of is internships that we work with different programs at different colleges and universities. Examples are, ASU, NAU, U of A. We've worked with Grand Canyon. We've worked with Midwestern University. And then we've also worked in the Maricopa Community College system, and then also Central Arizona College. And what we do is we get interns as a requirement for their programs. The students have internships that we provide them, and it's an array of areas of study. So we've had psychology interns, we've had social work interns, we've had nutrition interns. One of the most popular ones that we have is public health education and public health promotion. And then what they'll do is they'll get in contact with us through their schools and through their internship supervisors or their professors. And they'll get in contact with us and we'll set up an internship where they actually go out into the public. They develop programs and go into the public and do these presentations and educate the public on, different areas of health education. If they're a nutrition background, they'll go talk about nutrition. If they're psychology background, they may talk about mental health, and ways of coping, things like that. And so we go out, and what we like to call it is sort of a boots on the ground type of an experience. And it's really what it is allied healthcare. So we do a lot of work in community health centers, senior centers, schools, things like that, where we'll go out and it's really, I guess one of the main things that we like to point out is, although obviously doctors, nurses providing those internships for positions like that is essential and important, but what we try to do is get sort of, more of the allied, like I said, the allied healthcare, the community health worker background, to provide some of this education to the people that are right in front of us, I guess, for lack of a better term. So that's kind of what it's all about. We used to be part of the Area Health Education Center, which is throughout the state. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but it's throughout the state. And what it does is provide kind of the programs that we're talking about. We used to be funded through them. It's state funding, state contracts through the lottery. And we lost that funding a few years back. We thought, well, without the funding, this program is not going to be, it's not sustainable. Then we started getting calls from people, ASU, U of A, NAU, saying, hey, are you still doing this? We had a great experience. We've heard it's great. We had just super feedback on it. And so we thought, well, we need to keep this program going. And so what we did was we tailored it down. We kind of readjusted it to the things that we think were important. When we had the funding, we sort of had to jump through hoops and provide, we had to do things that we didn't feel necessarily aligned with what our goals were and what our vision was for the program, which was fine. And we did it. But then we also would add things to it that we didn't get credit for because it didn't align with what the funding was for. So now without the funding, one of the great things was we could redesign this program and we could send out our students and our interns to do what we want, and the things that, more importantly, what we think are important for, obtaining our goals here. So it kind of gave us a little bit of freedom. We had interest in it, so we decided to keep it going. Right now, it's not funded. We fund it in-house. We're constantly looking for that funding, to keep this important program going. Obstacles that we faced at the moment, obviously, COVID. The experiences that we provide for these interns are in the field. Sure, we could do them Zoom, we could schedule meetings to, a lot of the community centers would schedule a Zoom meeting, but the attendance was way down. And, talking about Zoom, we know how that goes. So over, the last COVID time, a couple of years, it's slowed down a bit, but we anticipate interns, there's still interest, but they come to us looking for Zoom projects and things. And it doesn't align with what our goals are. So we anticipate once everything opens up again and we get better, being ready for interns to come. I don't want to say come back because they haven't left, but getting ready for our interns to increase in numbers, so to speak.
Yeah. Wow. That was quite a bit. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm glad you're recording it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I'm trying to catch as many notes as I can, but yeah, it's definitely a lot of information. Well, awesome. And thanks for adding the challenges in there. That's definitely not one question that I had, but it's definitely good to hear that there are some challenges, but you guys are overcoming those. And so that's awesome.
Sure. And I mean, you guys face them as well, as far as, food distribution. It's
right.
Yeah.
And that's a good transition. So kind of talking about food distribution, how are some of the students involved in some of the Healthy Harvest that you guys are doing?
Well, the first and foremost way is that they're always volunteering in one role or another. It is a requirement of our program that they are part of our Healthy Harvest. I don't want to say that like there is any kind of backlash or whatever. They always want to be a part of it. But so one of the ways is they get that volunteering experience. Again, it's in the community. They're meeting people, our community members, and what they find is that they're repeat customers, so to speak. So they'll see them at the Healthy Harvest and they'll say, "Oh, I saw you over at the community health center doing this." And so they get to know the community members on a face-to-face basis. So we tend to, as you saw when you were here, we tend to have different roles and different jobs for our volunteers. So we like to spread them out so that they get sort of a full experience and they kind of get educated on the different things, whether it's meeting and greeting in the parking lot and getting proxies filled out, or it's counting in the helping with the count to get the food in and off the trucks and get that all itemized and, counting what we're going to do, and then bagging and then getting the food into the cars. So they always have that experience. We also utilize when we get the foods, the list of foods that are going to be available that month, we have our interns come up with recipes so that they can print out recipes, hand them out to, the people that are coming through, which is great. I mean, you provide a lot of different foods, which is awesome. But if you don't have any creative ways to cook it, we want to provide that so that they have, another avenue to be able to consume that food. And then in the past, when we've had nutrition interns, and usually those are like the interns from the community college, but we have had dietetic interns, things like that from ASU. They'll set up that recipe, but then they'll also set up little samples of that recipe as well so that they can hand those out. So we kind of provide that. The Healthy Harvest is a great experience for our interns because they get different views of different things. And again, that community experience is right there.
Yeah. Awesome. And that kind of gives them, I don't think I have this one really on here, but so are the students kind of typically getting like their own, you guys are kind of giving them freedom to make decisions almost in a way, or?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I mean, we're there supervising them. We're there, but I love when our students are independent and they come with us with ideas and say, "I think there's a need for this." And, we can kind of develop that. Well, let's do a needs assessment. Let's figure that out. Let's see how, and what I've tried to emphasize over the last couple of years at least was outcomes. So, okay, that's great. That's a great idea. But what's your desired outcome and how are you going to measure that? How are we going to know if that was successful or not? I mean, there's always those feel good pieces. You feel like you did good, you get it, but what's going to happen there?
Right. Yeah. Wow. Perfect. So then what kind of skills or applicable experience do you see a lot of the interns walking away from? So after they finish their internship or things like that, what kind of skills do you think that they gathered the most? Like, what do you see that feedback that you get back from them?
Well,
That makes sense.
No, that's great. A lot of the feedback that we get is that it was, I wouldn't say they say excited, but it was hands-on, I guess. From what I understand, some of these internships can be a little bit boring and mundane. So what we try to get it to where you're not just sitting in the office shuffling papers or answering the phone. And that kind of goes back to what you asked about independence. If they develop an idea and they want to get out there, there's no way that we're going to say, no, that's not important. We want to see how it develops. So they get the opportunity to sort of to look at, I guess, different situations and how they could be addressed. And it seems to me that right now, there's so many things, especially mental health, but so many things that people are going through that, there's plenty of opportunity for them to see needs everywhere and develop ideas there. So it really is, it's an independent experience for them. It's practical. And then a lot of times it's outside the box. Another thing, and I'll just touch on this briefly, that we do with our interns is we talk a lot about health policy. Okay. And the legislature. And so in the past, when it was easier to do, we would go down to the Capitol and listen to bills being read and encourage them to get on the request to speak. And if they were interested, they could see how they could actually voice their opinions on bills and different things and be part of that process. But just touching on that was one of the experiences that it was so off the wall that our interns loved. They thought that was so cool, just going down there. And that was on a whim. We used to have a satellite campus out on the west side. And I had two interns that were I would give them things and they'd finish them so quick. They'd finish these projects and they're like, well, what can we do now? And there were some bills being read. I said, let's go down to the Capitol. And and from there on, we made this like a part of the internship, but they just loved it, sitting in on it. And it really gave them that sense of being a part of the voting process. We get caught up in that my vote doesn't matter type of thinking. And they were really wowed by that. So just that kind of an experience, it's just finding ways to get that practical experience.
Yeah, absolutely. The hands-on. I mean, you don't see a lot of it where you get the advocacy skills, right? Things like that. So, right. Wow. Cool. So is there and if not, if you don't want to share one or anything like that, it's totally fine. But do you feel that there's like a success story, like one that stood out the most that was just like super great from the student-led projects? Or internships, I should say.
Well, there's so many, and they're just little though. That's not like this person became this or this grandiose thing. To me, I enjoy the feedback. I enjoy hearing that this was if sometimes just fun. This was fun, but this was an experience. I learned so much. Just the positive feedback. I guess one of my favorite stories, and this sort of doesn't fall into public health so much, but I did have an intern. He wasn't sure what he was one of the guys that went to the Capitol with us actually, and he wasn't sure what he wanted to do with public health. He was very much into statistics and things like that, and and vaccine rates and all this. And this was pre-COVID. But he wasn't sure exactly how he wanted to apply that. Really smart kid. And then I don't know how we started talking about it one time, but I said, you kind of think like a lawyer. You have that analytical skill, and I don't know if you've ever taken the LSAT or experienced anything like that, or, but it's really odd. It's not like it takes a whole different paradigm, the way that people think about things. And I said to him, you really think and talk like a lawyer, and have you ever thought about that? And he said, no, not really. I mean, people have said that, and I think he was kind of getting to the point where it sounds like it's just a lot of work, right? But anyway, so I got a text from him just last week saying, hey, I'm applying he just finished law school, and he's applying for the bar, and he wants to put me down as a reference, which I don't know. It doesn't apply to public health, but that's one of my favorite stories about internships.
Yeah, absolutely. You just being that mentor and guiding them. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah.
How cool. I definitely would I've never taken the LSAT, I'll be honest, but I do know I worked at Barnes and Noble, and looking at those books, those were big. They were big books.
And you go through, I took it a few years ago. I had aspirations, and then I was working on my master's in administration and education administration supervision at the time. And I got to a point where it was like, either stop that and now go to law school, or continue that. And my wife and I talked about it. We just continued that, but it was the oddest test ever. And I passed it, but barely.
Yeah.
I mean, you get these success stories where these guys are like, yeah, I got 100 on it and all this, and are super close to it. But it was, and then, you read those, like the books you were talking about, and you're like, I get this. And then you go to answer the next question, and no, you don't get it.
Right. Oh man. Awesome. Well, what advice would you give to other agencies? I mean, so a little bit, maybe for some context, we have some agencies that just focus on food distribution, right? They don't do a whole lot of this other stuff. And some of them are nonprofits. They don't have the type of capacity yet to develop programs like this. Mm-hmm. So what kind of advice would you give to them if they decided to kind of go this route for internships and more student-led things?
As far as like as solely as a food distribution agency?
Yeah. If we were just talking about just food distribution agencies or public health or like education, a lot of like the stuff that you kind of mentioned with building recipes and stuff like that. A lot of agencies don't have those students who are thinking that way yet. So if they want to explore this more, what advice would you give to them to better set up the program?
Well, I definitely think that it sounds cliche, but building a solid foundation and developing, a vision and a mission is a huge part of it. I think that you can sort of have this idea, and then by the time you break it down, you're sort of missing your mark or your original, what you wanted to do, your original goal. So I think definitely building that foundation and making sure that the direction that you want to go in is where you're going. And sort of to expand on that a little bit, I feel like sometimes people want to do this and this and this and this and this, and this is how we're going to help. And they feel like they failed because they didn't get to everything. Here, our mission is empowering people to improve lives. And the reason I like to point that out is because our mission isn't to do things for people. It's to guide people in the right directions, provide those resources, so that they can develop these things on their own and eventually get there on their own. And the reason I point that out and, related to this question is, if we were to have everybody that comes in for our help and do everything for them, number one, we would become very frustrated in the end because it doesn't always work out. But then number two, we would feel like we missed a lot of our goals. So I think it's very, our mission is very broad. However, it's something that we can always kind of fall back on.
Yeah.
And know that we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because some agencies that we have partnered with, or some agencies throughout the state, even somewhere else, they have this aspiration to do good. They just don't know how to do it, and some of them don't even set up these mission statements or these vision statements. So it sounds like what you're saying is that the best part is to kind of start in your mission and your vision, and then just build everything from that foundation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Very nice. Well, would you be just talking a lot, would you be interested in like kind of chatting with some agencies if they kind of decided to reach out after reading this newsletter or things like that, saying, hey, I want to get in contact with that Deke guy to figure out how he did this and what they're talking about even more? Would you be okay if agencies reached out?
I think that would be great. I'd love to do that. To be honest with you, I'm pretty I guess honored, thrilled that you liked what we do so much, that using this for this newsletter as a model for other agencies. I mean, we just kind of do what we do. It's so in a sense, keep it simple, but no, I would love to. I'm pretty thrilled that a manner that, I'd love to pass it along.
Yeah, sweet, perfect. We'll make sure I make note of that. And then, the last thing that I have here for the interview stuff is if you have a couple photos that you'd like to share of like students maybe working in at the food pantry or something like that, that people are willing to be okay in on the newsletter. This just goes to agencies. It's not like it's going out to the public, but just to our partner agencies, which is about 140 of them. So yeah, if you have any photos that you'd like to email to me, and then that way I can include them, or if like you guys want your logo in on there or something like that, do that, send it to me so that way I can include you guys in on that. Oh, I think I got a frozen screen now. Uh-oh.
There it is. There's our Zoom glitch for the day.
Oh no, I'm hoping it kept that other first half of the recording, because I really liked that. Just kind of just logged us off and then logged us back in. So hopefully it's stuck.
It just stopped when we were talking about helping with other agencies develop their programs, and you talked about pictures.
Yeah.
Pictures of our interns. So hopefully you got all that stuff there. That was good stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, so hopefully if you could just share some, that'd be great.
Yeah, we have a trifold describing the Empowerment Learning Collaborative, and a new flyer that we made. And that, well, I say new because we have I think you met Brianna the other day when you were here. She's our newest employee, and she's a program coordinator. And I got to tell you, she's been doing a fantastic job so far. She's redone our flyers, redone our brochures. She's on social media promoting our programs and things. So yeah, I'll get her to get you some stuff. And she would actually be one of the contacts for our internship too. So she's the one kind of getting out there and promoting it. She's doing a great job. So I'll get her involved in this and get some social media stuff going as well. So
yeah, for sure. That'd be perfect. Well, awesome. Yeah. That's all I got. Any questions for me at all or anything?
No. I love the fact that you're reaching out and that we're doing this and we're able to promote this and work, in another way together. It's great.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I have one last question, because it's just a thought that popped in my head that I'm maybe going to explore with my team. But if it came down to it, would you be okay if I shared this recording as well on our YouTube page? Would that be okay?
I think I'm a little casual, it's a little cold out, but I'm fine.
I'm wearing a t-shirt too. So yeah, all good. Oh yeah. I think it was literally just an idea that popped in my head. I was like, interviews with agencies would be like a cool little series on our YouTube page. So I don't know. I'm just thinking, but yeah.
No, I think that'd be great. I think it went very well.
As long as the recording's saved.
Right.
We'll see. But well, great.
No, I think that'd be cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Deke. I appreciate your time.
No, thank you very much. Let me know if you need anything else.
Yeah, for sure. And I saw you, let me go ahead and stop the recording.